This is Jared Axelrod, and you are listening to the voice of Free Planet X, true stories of fictional people. When I was growing up, I lived in a house that was built at the time of the Revolutionary War. The boards that made up the floor were impossibly wide, almost a yard across, and each nail was different, crafted by hand. This will probably surprise none of you who listen to the show regularly, but I was in my own head a lot as a kid, and I would look at those nails and the floorboards and think about whose hands made them, whose feet stepped on them. Was the war discussed over these boards in hushed, furtive tones? Or were they broad, triumphant declarations? Who waited above those nails to hear from the front? Did anyone play with toy soldiers on those boards while their family enacted the game for real? A house is supposed to be a sanctuary. A person's home is their castle, as they say. And in my early teen years, that room with its floor that saw hundreds of years of feet was certainly my sanctuary. But it was also incredibly drafty. The old boards had warped from age. It was a constant reminder, I guess, that four walls can keep a roof over your head, but it can't keep the outside world out forever. I was thinking about this when I was talking to a man who asked only to be referred to as Cogs.
Cogs will do. Even now, it's better not to use my real name.
So how did this refugee plan work, exactly?
I'm not sure how it started or whose idea it was. They say there's no hiding from the Deator, but at the time, we thought we had done it. Your planet was an unknown world, in an unknown system, and we found that in certain areas of society, we could slip in unnoticed.
No one thought it was strange that people would just show up with no sort of work history, or any history at all, for that matter.
But that was the beauty of it. We did have a history. At the time, this was around the turn of the last century. All you needed was a proper recommendation letter. And we all had one. A glowing recommendation from Lord Smithers. Lord Smithers had been deceased for years. But there was a man living in Lord Smithers' house who looked like Lord Smithers, sounded like Lord Smithers, and, most importantly, signed references with a signature indistinguishable from the one used by Lord Smithers, which he did quite often. Were anyone to put all of Lord Smithers' reference letters together, they might conclude that Lord Smithers' manor had the highest employee turnover rate imaginable. Nothing could be further from the truth. None of the men and women Lord Smithers wrote references for had ever worked for him in any capacity.
Sounds like a pretty nice system.
It worked well for a time. So well, in fact, that when the Crown Prince needed to be placed into hiding, we could think of no better place to put him.
And you have recordings of the Prince's time in Tortleton Manor?
Yes. It was a security precaution. I couldn't keep my eyes on him all the time, of course, but I thought, if I could have my ears...
Lord Smithers speaks very highly of you, almost higher than he spoke of Cogs. Cogs, you know Mr. Leroy here, back when you were with Smithers.
He was hired after my time, sir.
Right, of course, right. I must say, we weren't expecting you until tomorrow, and certainly not this late in the evening.
Yes, sir. Unforeseen circumstances hastened my arrival.
Oh, nothing serious, I hope.
No. Merely a carriage whose horse seemed to defy all laws of decency and nature, sir. I probably should not have bet the coachman that he could get me here before sundown.
Well, Mr. Leroy, due to the lateness of the hour, I will trust Cogs to give you the basic overview of your responsibilities here, and we shall do a proper interview on the morrow. Cogs, please escort Mr. Leroy to his room.
Very good, sir.
Mr. Leroy, one more thing. How did you make out?
Sir?
Your bet with the coachman. You arrived long after dark. How much did you wager?
Only cab fare, I'm afraid.
Should have asked for more.
He brought me here, sir. That's quite gift enough.
I heard about the attack. How many were lost?
3. The rest are well on their way to their new lives. Just lucky for me we were forced to land so near here.
I trust the ship was not one of ours, and was destroyed.
Correct on both counts. Nothing remains that could give us away.
Good. It is still good to see you, Your Grace, even under these circumstances.
And you, Admiral.
Thank you. I trust this shall be the last time either of us use these titles again. We set you up as a tutor for Sir Edward's son, Bingo. Bingo is to attend Oxford next year, and Sir Edward, who has only recently come into his money and title, wants to make sure his son is more than able to keep up with and blend in with his classmates. You've got your work cut out for you.
I've been a prince my entire life. I certainly hope I can help a boy become a gentleman.
Remember this. You are prince no longer. You are Tobias Leroy. You come from a family of status, but your parents died tragically and with massive debts. You have been forced into this position as necessity. This is your life now.
And yet it so easily mirrors the one I left behind. No need to worry. I know the role I am to play.
Of course. I just wish we had been able to find you an occupation better suited to your status. Here is your lodging. As Bingo's tutor, you will be sleeping here, upstairs. I know this is not what you're used to.
I am prepared to rough it.
As I understand it, this is a rather well-appointed room for the culture. Tomorrow, I shall introduce you to the rest of the staff downstairs.
Thank you. Look at those stars. Home is very far away, isn't it, Admiral?
It's cogs, sir. And yes, home is very, very far away. You'd do well to remember both.
It was my job to light the fires come morning. I had already lit the fires in Sir Edward's, Lady Twirtleton's, and Bingo's rooms, and was just about to head downstairs to start polishing the brass in the foyer, when I remembered what Mr. Coggs had said the night before. That the prince— no, not the prince. Mr. Coggs had said the new tutor. The new tutor had come in early, Mr. Coggs had said, and that he was already up in his room, and that we would all meet him in the morning. Most of all, Mr. Coggs said, it was absolutely important not to treat him differently than anyone else. And that morning I thought to myself, well, I'd be treating him different if I didn't go in there to light the fire, wouldn't I? I'm not gawking, I'm doing chores. But I won't lie to you. I did for a moment ponder how the prince might look in his bedclothes before I opened the door. Well, he wasn't in his bedclothes, I'll tell you that. He was standing there fully dressed, looking out at the stars. He looked almost fragile standing there, the almost light of the near dawn streaming in behind him. His long arms were cradling his chest, and he appeared slightly dazed. And he says to me, "Oh, hello. Is it mornin'? It must be mornin'. The sun isn't up yet, but it must be mornin'." And I gave him the best curtsy I could with my trembling hands, and I told him I was just there to light the fire. So I went about my work, but I could feel the prince's icy eyes on the back of my neck, and sure enough I could not get the bastard lit. And the prince, he keeps talking to me. "What's your name, miss?" he says, like it's nothing. I can ask that, can't I? And I tell him that my name is Molly Cruz, which he doesn't believe, not for a moment, and I can tell he's about to say something in the old tongue, and I couldn't have it, not for the world. Be too much. It was too much with the prince there at all, and to have the songs of my home come out of his lips there in that house. I would break down, I would just break down, and I wasn't about to cry that morning, not in front of the prince. "You can ask anyone here," I told him. "My name's been Molly Cruz since the day I arrived. You can ask up and down." The prince doesn't say a word in the old tongue, and he gives me this look that he understands what the old tongue means. He gives me this nod, and he says that of course my name is Molly, but he looks forward to a time when he can call me something else. And I say that would be a good day indeed, and try my best to light the damn fire. He asks me about my family, if I have any, and if they are close by. I told him of my sister Anne. He asked where she was, if she was at the manor, and I told him Anne is blessed far away in Hull, and good for her, though I had plans to take the train to see her come Christmas, if I could scratch up the coin. I finally got that fire started. When I turned back to the prince, he was back at the window, gazing out at the stars. They were already starting to fade. The sun was coming up, see. So I asked him, "You feeling homesick, sir?" And I tell you what, the prince seemed to shrink right there, as if he was a child and I had caught him stealing cookies or tracking mud under the polished floor. But I told him there was nothing to it, how I frequently catch my thoughts going back to Mum and the rest. But then alls I need is a letter from Anne, or a smile from one of the girls in the kitchen. Even
Falling in
Eustace,
with the rest of the
useless
staff
as he
wasn't
is
a
as
problem.
a hall boy, has done nothing but sweetness
Prince's
by
young
me.
charge, however.
We may not look like the family back home, but trust you me,
I want
we'll
to
do
show
fine
you
in a
something.
pinch. And
Tell
living
me,
this
what's
way
in
isn't
front
so
of
hard
you?
anymore.
Let's see. Two small
And he
paper
thanked
dolls,
me. Can you
two
imagine?
glasses, one of which
He
is
thanked
filled with
me
water,
for
and
the fire,
a box of matches.
and for the
Is
warmth,
this to be a magic
he
act?
said. And I
Oh,
didn't know what
no.
else to do.
Think of
So I
this
gives
as
him
a
a curtsy
demonstration
and say
of
it's
our
all part of the
respective
job,
situations.
and welcome to the
This
family.
paper doll is you. It goes in the empty glass. And this one is me. And I'll just put myself into the one half filled with water. Just like that. And this is Father's anger.
Clever.
Just wait. It gets better. Watch what happens when I put Father's anger near you.
Ashes to ashes. Very impressive.
Oh, I'm not through yet. Let's see what happens to me in the same situation. Huh, nothing happened. Imagine that. Obviously, it seems to me that it is far more in your best interest to keep Father happy than it is for mine. So here's what we'll do. You tell my father that everything is going swimmingly with our studies, that I'm learning how to be a gentleman and all that other horse rot. And I'll make sure Father doesn't hear anything that would cost you your job.
I don't think that would be a good idea, considering
What
what
you think
you're...
doesn't bother me in the slightest. I'm more than smart enough for Oxford, and I seriously doubt I need you teaching me table manners in order to pass exams. I have no need of you, and I have no need of your teachings. I have more interesting things to do, like seeing how Captain Servadoc and his company are going to survive on that comet.
Jules Verne, eh? Off on a comet. You know, I once read
I
this...
don't care in the slightest. You may go.
Tell me, boy, learn anything exciting with your new tutor?
Oh, lots. We were discussing the intractable immutability of man, and how change often leads to disaster. Entropy, you know. Things fall apart. This glass here, for instance, is merely in a state of before shattered. Inevitably, it will break and be tossed out with the rubbish.
Edward!
It's all right, dear. The servants will take care of it. Is this what you're teaching our boy?
Not quite. I don't think Bingo quite understood.
Oh, I understood perfectly. Mr. Leroy is a great tutor. Why, he's simply combustible. Also, we were discussing comets.
Comets.
Yes.
I was under the understanding that we had hired you to help our son prepare for social niceties he will encounter in university. How is it that comets relate to that?
I have found, my lady, that there is much we can learn from the behaviors of heavenly bodies. The orderly orbits of planets, the positions of moons, and yes, the journeys of comets. The universe has a rhythm and structure all its own, and if we can learn from what is outside this pale blue ball, well then, I believe we will all be better people.
You believe that, do you? Bit of a queer notion, isn't it?
Dear!
Well, it is, Daphne, it is. All that stuff about what's outside this planet. I'm not going to question your techniques, Mr. Leroy, but please try to keep your education of our son grounded in this world, if you do not mind.
Of course. Starting tomorrow, all my lessons are going to be extremely grounded. Complete change of lesson plan. Oh, you're awake. Quite imagination on this Mr. Verne, eh? You have his other stuff? Absolutely fascinating.
What is this? Kidnapping? Have I been kidnapped?
Don't flatter yourself, Bingo. No. Think of this as a demonstration. Tell me what's in front of you.
We're in a field, surrounded by trees on the left and gently rolling hills to the right. Is that a stream? Everything is green and living and disgusting.
On unfamiliar ground, are you? I wouldn't worry too much about it. We're still on Tortleton grounds, still in your backyard, such as it is. I tell you, Bingo, the land your father owns is astounding. Beautiful, really. Truly beautiful. Heavenly. You could spend your whole life out here and never see the house. But you're a clever lad. I wager you'd find the house by nightfall.
Wait! You can't possibly leave me here!
Come now, Bingo. You can't expect me to carry that bed back by myself. Took both footmen, myself, and Eustace to carry it all the way out here. No. Better to leave it. I'm sure someone will come looking for you when you're missed for a day or so.
I'll find my way back.
I'm sure you will, though it might be harder than you think. I imagine it's not too much of a stretch to say that even though you are, in fact, in your own backyard, you still have no idea where you are.
I could follow you.
Ah, but there's the rub, isn't it? You said yourself that you did not want to follow me. You remember, you were there. I have no need of you, and I have no need of your teachings. I believe that was your phrasing. But here's the thing, Bingo. You're going to wake up in college, and it's going to be familiar, but you are not going to have any idea what to do, which way to go. I can prepare you for this, but not if you are unwilling. Do you understand? We make our own choices in this life. Neither I nor your father can force you out of the wilderness into civilization. You have to do that. Now, If you're not too high and mighty to follow me back to the house, I believe Anatole may have saved some breakfast for us. And if we are exceedingly lucky, we can pin the bed issue on Eustace. Come now. Don't forget the Vern there, I was reading that.
It was quite wonderful. The prince was getting along with the family, and his very presence lightened the load of us all. None of us were going home again. We knew that. We had made our peace with it. But to not only have the prince here with us, but to know with our own eyes that he was safe, that was marvelous. It was like having a little bit of home here.
So, what happened?
The prince was not the only piece of home that descended upon that house.
Now, Bingo, can you tell me the significance of Nicholas Poussin's painting in Arcadia Eagle?
Sometimes you've got to stop and smell the tombstones.
Bingo.
It's a memento mori, a reminder that death is always around the corner.
True. But what's the difference between this painting here and the human skull your father keeps on his desk? Why is this message significant?
It's in Arcadia. Paradise. Heaven. Poussin is saying that even when we are the most idyllic, the most content, death will come. Death is a constant.
Well, we can never truly be certain what the artist is saying, but...
What's that? It's glorious.
Bingo! Into the basement! Quickly now!
But...
Go!
I heard it said, later, that it was an earthquake that toppled the manor. Which was nonsense, of course. That old manse would have survived Doomday. But a day at a warship, what could stand to that? Stone and sand might as well have been made of paper. Stupid old man.
It's not your fault.
I'm afraid that it is. We scrupulously avoided using our own technology while we were here, for fear of being noticed. But then, when the prince came, I needed to know what he was up to.
So you used your technology to bug him?
Without his knowledge at that. It seemed like such a little thing. But those recordings were enough. Enough to be noticed. Enough to bring that entire manor house down around our ears.
Everyone on the ground floor or below came away with nothing more than scrapes and bruises. So there's a comfort. Years later, Anne told me that a boy of her house died in the Great War, the one here, not long after the manor fell. And then so many of the rest of the family caught the Spanish flu, adding to the graveyard. So if it didn't happen then, doesn't mean they'd had a long life ahead of them, eh? There's a comfort. It doesn't feel like one, but it's there. Some of us took service jobs in other houses, but I couldn't. Anne even said she could get me a job in Hull, but I couldn't do it. We were there because we were hiding, you see. We thought We knew that if we just hid well enough and carefully enough, kept our head down and let no one know who we were, we'd be safe. But that's not how it works, is it? Not how it works at all. Fear cannot protect us. I didn't want the prince's legacy to be me sticking my head in the ground. I didn't know him well, but I knew him well enough to know that wouldn't have been what he wanted. Grigibar Isalon Lascarade. That's my name. I'm sorry I couldn't give it to you sooner.
The Voice of Free Planet X was written and produced by Jared Axelrod. This episode features music by bensound.com and Zero Project. The Voice of Free Planet X theme is by Russell Collins. Art for this episode is by Ashley Popio. This episode could not have existed without the performances of
Graham Walmsley,
Nick Popio,
Allie Press,
Jennifer Summerfield,
and the support of listeners like you. You can support the Voice of Free Planet X at patreon.com/Axelrod. There's all sorts of behind-the-scenes videos there, including a video recording of the live episode, The Wake of the Lacuna. The cast was incredible in that show. It was almost like watching a play. I got caught up in it, and I was on stage. I was in there. It was amazing. You should watch that if you're a Patreon backer. And you should become a Patreon backer so you can watch it. I'm extraordinarily pleased to announce that Oddfellows Local won the Parsec Award in the Best Speculative Fiction category, large cast, short form. That is one of my favorite episodes of the last season, so I am overjoyed that I am not the only one who thinks that way. Dave Robinson, Kennedy Allen, and Lynn Webb do some incredible voice work, grounding the silliness of the idea into some very real emotions, so it's no wonder that those three keep popping up on this show. It's a great episode, it's a great honor to receive the award for it, and I'm pleased as punch. Links to the Voice of Free Planet X Patreon, Facebook page, newsletter, Twitter, and of course, email, if you want to contact me directly, are all at planetx.libsyn.com. Also, you can check out all the amazing art for each episode. There's a lot of good stuff there. Very proud of that website. You should check it out. Leave a review on iTunes if you like what I'm doing here, or don't if you would prefer this show to wallow in obscurity. That choice is yours, really. It's out of my hands. The Voice of Free Planet X is distributed by Galactic Public Radio.
GPR.
Oh, GPR.
Galactic Public Radio.
Thank you for listening.